Call Don now, 682-1270. News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. Welcome back to the program. It's 8:29, and I'm pleased to welcome to the show two guys we haven't talked to before. We have Travis Coyle, who is going to be the promoter for Pride and Pain MMA tomorrow night over at Camplex. Also, we have Eric Coxbill, who is in the main event for the night. And first off, welcome, guys, and thanks for stopping by.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so why don't we talk a little bit about the promotion first, and then we'll talk about some of the fights and some of the things you have going on. First off, tell us a little bit about, Travis, you can tell us a little bit about your background in MMA and how you kind of got into the promotion game.
Okay, my background, whenever I first started fighting, I was 17, started fighting amateur, trained and fought all over the U.S., and turned professional when I was 21. And then when I turned 23, me and my wife, well, my wife was already putting on fights. I started putting on fights all over South Dakota. And now we're making our way into Wyoming, bringing some big names and putting on a good show here. The Gillette Camplex called me and said that they weren't using the promoter they're using before, and they'd like to use a new promoter. So,
well, and of course, Wyoming just in the past year or so decided to start up an MMA commission. So I imagine there's paperwork, and you have to get officials, and you have to get all that kind of stuff put together. I imagine there's a lot of work that goes into promotion. Do you even have time to fight anymore?
A little bit, but yeah, it is a little bit of time, but it is a lot of work that goes into it. It used to be really easy when there was no commission.
Well, I actually went to the Wyoming MMA Commission's website because I thought, well, maybe I could learn how to be a judge. I like watching MMA. I could be a judge or something like that. And then I saw
a million things to read.
Oh boy, I was like, well, I'm not that much of an expert, so I'll just go and sit in the crowd and watch the fights. So you do have a background in fighting then. So what was your specialty? I mean, were you wrestling, striking, jiu-jitsu?
I was lucky when MMA first started, back when it was bare knuckle. First started getting big, I was about 12, 13, and my wife's dad, I wasn't obviously married to her back then, but he started the first promotion in the Midwest. I think it was him, a show in Michigan, and the UFC were the only three shows in the U.S. And he trained me for a few years before I ever got out of high school and went into the Army. So I kind of trained in everything for a good 10, 15 years.
Well, and so it's interesting you mentioned the early days, because the early days you could kind of get away with just doing one thing. I mean, when
you're good at one thing, then
you could win. I mean, it was always the jiu-jitsu guy versus the boxer versus the wrestler. Nowadays, you kind of have to know a little bit of everything, don't you?
Yeah, unless you're Eric Coxbill and you can wrestle anybody down.
Well, okay. So let's talk with Eric for a little bit now. And so you've done. I guess your background's in wrestling, then, huh?
Yes, sir. I've wrestled since I was like 6 years old.
Well, and I mean, I don't want to make you feel self-conscious, but I saw the cauliflower ears. So, yeah, I mean that's the sign of a true wrestler. You put the time in. So, but I imagine you do have to be ready for other disciplines. You certainly have to know a little bit of everything, right?
Yes, sir. I feel I'm pretty disciplined in the other ones too. I train with a K1 kickboxer for the last just about 3 years, and I've also been going training jiu-jitsu for the last 3 years with Mike Heidemo, who's a black belt. So.
Oh, okay. So, well, and it seems like wrestling and jiu-jitsu are the two disciplines that seem to be the most useful, especially in modern MMA. Because I mean, there's seems like you don't see as many people getting knocked out anymore. There's a lot more people tapping in fights these days.
I think wrestling can really help you control the positions of a fight. You can really. I mean, if you're a good wrestler, a lot of times you can find a takedown and be on top. And if you're on top, you're winning a fight.
Yeah. So now you're in 170 weight class. Do you know anything? I mean, do you know your opponent very well?
I have a decent idea of what I think he's going to do, but it's still a fight. And, have to go out there and give it all.
Yeah. Well, and I know a lot of times, at the smaller promotions, sometimes you don't really have a whole lot of video to watch on your opponents. So you go into the ring, you're kind of you have to pretty much prepare for everything, don't you?
I think you always have to. You always have to. I mean, change something up, or who knows? That's why it's a fight. That's why you fight the fight, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly, I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. But this is now. How long have you been doing this?
I've started. I guess it's been about 3 years now. I think since I've been fighting.
So this is something you've been working at for a while. Do you have any predictions?
Well, I predict I'm gonna win. I guess.
Okay, you're not gonna give it a round, or
I'm just gonna go do my thing.
Okay. I'm not gonna push you any further on that. I know some of the. I like to try to get the guys to want to do a first round knockout or something like that, but I won't put you in that position. So Travis, there are a bunch of other fights on the card, aren't there?
Yes, we have a heavyweight professional kickboxing fight. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. There's also Tremaine Apley. He's a local. He's making his pro debut here. He's fighting Cheyenne Ziegler, a pro boxer out in North Dakota. Brooke Tibbetts. She's a girl from here. She's fighting. She plays on the roller derby team.
I know. And she's a police officer too. So
yeah.
Well, so she's getting into fighting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. See, I did not know that. I know Brooke.
Also, Eric's a police officer too.
I'm deputy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Have you been in here with the police department before?
No.
Okay.
I'm sheriff's office.
Okay, because I've probably seen you driving around town.
Also, we got Ed Herman coming in, Thomas Wildman Denny. Thomas Denny's a WEC King of the Cage vet. Ed Herman's UFC veteran. He's still fighting in the UFC. He'll be flying in today, so they'll be at the weigh-ins and at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, well, and that's something you're doing that's a little bit different than what we're used to as well. You're doing the public weigh-ins as well.
Yes.
And which is always kind of cool because you get to see the fighters, you get to kind of meet everybody.
Face-offs are the most fun to watch.
The face-offs, the face-offs. So we'll definitely be watching out for that and see if anybody kind of stirs something up.
Yeah.
It's always a lot of fun.
That's the most exciting part.
Yeah, well,
other than the fight.
So Eric, have you had to do a lot of cutting to get to weight?
No, I had to cut a bit. I guess I think you're supposed to.
Yeah,
it's normal. So.
Yeah, well, and I had a donut in here, and I made sure I got rid of it before you came in because I know.
Because I'm a cop, right?
Well, I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking I don't like to torture the guys because I mean I've had guys in here before, and I offer them water. No, cutting. I can't do it. I can't even have water. So it's one of those things. Now, are you one of the guys that goes out and loads up on carbs after the weigh-in?
I am.
So you'll probably put on another 10 or 15 pounds after?
Probably 10 pounds.
Yes. Which of course gives you all the energy you need in the fight.
I did see those donuts when I walked in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're not cutting, so you can have all the donuts you want. And so, but now, I guess one of the other things I wanted to ask. Now, are you going to be using an octagon, a round cage, a ring? I mean, how are you going to do it?
It's a cage. It's octagon cage. It's not. Yeah, it's 8 sides.
Okay. So it's pretty much what people would come to expect watching an MMA show. I know some of the promotions still use.
We use a little bit shorter cage because it kind of brings the action more to the middle. When you have a huge cage, it's kind of you can have a lot of room to run away.
Well, yeah, I do. I see that quite a bit in the UFC. Their cage is so big, and I think it's 20 or 22 feet or something.
They're
like
30.
30
feet regulation.
Oh boy!
The one that I have is 22.
Oh, okay. So the 22 is the smaller one. So, but I mean that's a lot of room, and of course some of those guys. I mean, at the championship UFC levels, there's really not a whole lot of room to run away, but it certainly does get the closer the action is, the more the fans are going to get to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, tomorrow night, Pride and Pain MMA over at Camplex. The fights start around 7, so I imagine the doors will open about 6.
Yep.
And there's going to be tons of great fights, lots of local fighters, and of course, Eric, you're going to be in the main event, and you predict you're going to win. So we'll hold you to that.
I plan on it.
Okay, and of course tonight the weigh-ins over at Buffalo Wild Wings, 6:00. Go out and check out the weigh-ins.
We'll have Ed Herman sign autographs if anybody wants to come down. So.
Oh, that's cool. That's I'll be out there. I'll definitely stop by and have a few wings and have a couple beers and check out the weigh-ins, because like you said, I mean that is one of the fun parts of the experience. I mean it's something that it gives it a big fight feel.
Yeah,
you kind of get that. You kind of get that feeling like you used to get back in the day when when Brock was would fight, and they'd have these big weigh-ins. They'd face off, and somebody would push somebody and knock the stage over and everything else. So I don't know if we'll see any of that, but it'll definitely be a lot of fun.
That'd be crazy.
Yes, well, I'm sure they could probably clean up the mess over at Buffalo Wild Wings for you.
Oh yeah.
Okay, Pride and Pain MMA tomorrow night. The weigh-in tonight over at Buffalo Wild Wings. Thank you so much, guys, for stopping by, and best of luck, Eric. And of course, best of luck on a great show. I'll be out there, so we'll.
Thank you. We'll see you there.
We'll see you tomorrow night.
Thanks.
News Talk 1270 KIML.
Listen every Tuesday for coverage of the Pronghorns, Wild, Camels, Cowboys, and pro sports. The Tuesday Morning Quarterbacks Hour. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML.